Welcome to the video and thanks for tuning in. Over the next 15 to 20 minutes, my goal is to give you the resources to take another step as a father, as a man, and as a leader in your family. I believe that over the past couple decades as men, we have kind of laid down our roles and responsibilities based on what the Bible has to say. And unfortunately, we've gotten weak, we've gotten passive, and we've gotten really distracted. The enemy doesn't have to defeat you, he just has to distract you. And I think he's done a fantastic job of that over the past 50 to 100 years. He has taken the man out of the house, out of the family, out of the raising of their kids. So in this video, over this summer, I want you to take a step towards being the main discipler in your kid's life. They need you to teach and to train them so that they can mature and become the men and women that God has designed them to be. And I know that this is a big step outside of our comfort zone. That's why I want to make these videos as practical as possible and help guide you through this. So very specifically, in today's episode, what I want to do is to cover the 6 stages of manhood. Why do we need to know the stages of manhood? Well, as you're creating your vision, which I challenged you to do in the first video, I want you to consider your kids' stage of life and also what they need developmentally. The needs of a 5-year-old versus a 15-year-old are very different, and I would have very different visions for my summer. So if we don't understand that, then maybe we'll be too hard on our kids or too soft on our kids. Let's have an appropriate level of intensity based on their age of development. Also, if you have daughters, some of the same concepts are going to apply here. I have a very young daughter myself. Admittedly, I haven't done the same level of research yet. So don't check out if you just have daughters, because I think what you'll see is a lot of these concepts still apply to raising daughters. Number 2 is I want to give you the vision I have for my sons this summer. Why? Because I want to make this extremely practical. I think a lot of you may have looked at the questions I gave last week and been like, I don't even know where to start. Well, I want to give you some concepts or some ideas to make this extremely doable. And then once again, for the sake of actually doing this, I want to give you specific guidance for this week and next week. I don't care if you follow what I'm doing or follow my guidance. But the way I think of it is a lot of us, I'm going to compare this to working out, a lot of us would love to go get a better physique, or we'd love to get bigger muscles or be more in shape. But that desire ends very quickly when we have to actually do something, because we don't know where to start or what to do. We don't know the practical piece of it. And there's a plethora of information online, probably too much, and it's analysis paralysis. And there's information overload. So we do nothing because we don't know where to start or we don't know what to do. This is my hope to remove the barriers and to get the ball moving. Let's build some momentum this summer. Once again, the goal is to improve over the next 5 to 10 years and to raise our kids, to train them so that when we launch them off, they're hitting the target. This is not a one summer and done thing. So the worst thing you can do is go, get super intense this summer, burn yourself out, and not do it the rest of your kid's life. No, this is let's take a step this summer. Let's make an improvement, but let's not burn ourselves out. As we start going through the stages of manhood, I just want to bring up this verse. I love this verse. It's the Apostle Paul speaking in 1 Corinthians, and he says, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. I start with this verse because there's an emphasis here on progress, right? There's a child and then there's a man. There is a boy and then there's a man. And there's a difference. And the difference isn't just age. The difference isn't just a little stubble on your chin or some facial hair. That's not the difference. The difference is in maturity, wisdom, courage, things like that. And unfortunately, a boy can grow into a man's body without any thought, right? But a boy doesn't develop in character, doesn't develop in spiritual maturity on accident. So a lot of us just see our kids getting bigger and we think, you know what, they're maturing. They're becoming men. That's not the case. They're just boys in a man's body, but spiritually, emotionally, and in character, they're still boys. So this is also the reason we look around our country, you look around your job, your school, and you're like, man, I've got 40-year-old men sitting next to me, but they still talk like kids, think like kids, and reason like a kid. That's because in a lot of ways they still are. They've never been matured or taken through and trained to become a man. This is from John Eldredge's book, Fathered by God, which is a fantastic book. I really can't recommend this enough. This encouraged me and challenged me during a season where I really needed it. But the idea is that most of us have never been trained and initiated, right? This is a generational problem over the past 100 to 150 years where men have been removed from the home. They have kind of dropped their roles and responsibilities of being a leader and then raising and discipling their kids. So because of that, most of us are what he would call unfinished men, right? We aren't as far along in this spectrum as we like to think. And thus, because we're unfinished men, we aren't training our kids. It's just a generational problem now. Well, the reality is God wants to step in. He wants to father you. He wants to mature you, build you, strengthen you so that you can become the man he's designed you to be. So I think this will convict you, this will encourage you, but this is also a framework for your kids. And once again, as you're thinking of your vision for your kids, the main takeaway is I want you to make sure you're challenging them and bringing the right level of intensity. So there they are, boyhood, cowboy, warrior, lover, king, and sage. And even though John gives us 6, some authors, some pastors might give us 5 stages to manhood, it doesn't matter. The idea is that there's a progression here. Let's not split hairs on titles or, is there 5 or 6 stages? The idea is there is a progression, there is a maturity that happens, and that's a reality that we have to just kind of wrestle with. Today, we're just going to talk about boyhood and cowboy phases just very briefly. Boyhood, the idea is literally from the time you're a young boy up until adolescence, 12 or 13 years old. You're in this boyhood phase, okay? And this is not black and white where once you're done with boyhood, now you're in cowboy. They overlap and there's some gray area there. But the idea here is in this phase, up until they're 12 or 13, this is a time where the main question on a boy's heart, the main question that they need answered is, am I the beloved son? Does my father love me? Am I special to him? Am I unique? Does he value me? Am I the beloved son? So if you have a son, I have a 6-year-old and I have a 4-year-old. And so as I'm thinking about very practically what this means is, while I do want to teach them and train them, and that in and of itself is different than the world's standards. So that is already weird. But even though I'm going to teach them and train them and push them, the question on their hearts that I can't forget is, am I the beloved son? I would be foolish if I pushed my kids so hard that I exasperated them, like Ephesians 6 verse 4 says. It says, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Rather, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. So don't overdo it with your kids. So this is me just saying, hey, the level of intensity needs to be appropriate based on your kid's age and what they need. Okay? You can push your kids, you can challenge them, but it still should be loving. It should be a little bit less formal, and we need to make sure we don't cross a line, right? The goal is to just coach them. It's to teach them. They're gonna make tons of mistakes. They're gonna need to be reminded of things 5, 10, 15 times on a daily basis. That's okay. This is the long game we're playing with them. We are coaching them and just developing a habit that they're used to responding to our coaching. We don't want them to become 13, 14 years old when we should really more formalize this idea. And they're so burnt out on you as a coach and you as a teacher because you have overdone it from an intensity level and you've kind of exasperated them, just using biblical language. You've exasperated them, they're burnt out, and you've kind of lost your authority in their eyes. Another thing I want you to know about boyhood phase is that it's marked with exploration and wonder. This is why boys love to have the pirate's map, and they love to find lost treasure, and they love to go into the woods. And boys can go play in the woods and go play outside all day, and they can just make up games and they can wonder and have adventure. It's also a time where boys love to battle and to fight. The heart of a boy is to be powerful and to be dangerous. And this is the warrior, which is another phase, another stage of manhood. This is the warrior heart that God has put into boys, right? That's not a bad thing. It's not bad that boys want to sit here and make everything a sword or a gun. And, in our society these days, we just want to feminize boys even at a young age. And we've told them that anything masculine, any strength, any courage, anything powerful is just dangerous and bad. And we've done that, and we've started doing that from such a young age that it's no wonder that when boys are 13, 15, 20, 25, 30 years old, that they don't want to express any power. And then so fast forward, women, you want to marry a strong man that'll fight for you, that's protective, that's not going to, back down in a time of need. Well, those men are few and far between nowadays because we've told them that that's bad. This is good. It's good for a boy to be powerful and dangerous. And he is just exploring that man, that warrior part of God's design. Now, everything's within reason. Obviously, as a parent, you can discern when things are going too far, but don't stop the adventure. Don't stop the wander, the battling. My two boys, they love to fight. We don't let it get too far, but they love to wrestle and they love to go play swords and whatnot. That is good. They're doing exactly what God has designed them to do. So, but as you're designing your vision and kind of what activities you're going to do, lean into this. It's a time where they want to explore and wonder. Lean into that. You're going to capture their heart. You're going to capture their attention much more if you lean into that reality. This is an amazing frame of mind that we have to get into our hearts. And I think this will impact you in your relationship with God, your Heavenly Father, but also will practically change the way you think of fathering your kids. So it says, as a young man or a cowboy, he will soon be tested, and he will face battles and challenges as a warrior. And those tests and challenges often feel to men like a form of rejection or cold-heartedness on the part of God, because he does not first know in his heart of hearts that he is the beloved son. So reality is, life is going to get hard when they kind of progress. They're in that next phase of manhood. They're going to be tested. And that's a good thing. Part of the way God matures us as men is he allows us to go through tests and through trials. That is the way he strengthens us and matures us on this process. But it can feel like rejection. It can feel very cold-hearted if we don't first understand our Father's love for us. So I'm trying to drill into your mind that if you have a young son, when he's 13 or older, you're going to test him. You want to challenge him, and that is good. And life is going to do it naturally, but as a father, you're going to do it intentionally as well. But if you don't first have his heart, if you don't first lay a foundation of love and that he's the beloved son, that he's uniquely valued by you, then he might see it in the wrong lens. So lay a foundation where when he gets to this next stage of life, that it's not going to crumble. All right, so this is the last one we're going to review today, just because I want you to think of where you're going with this. So the cowboy phase is 12, 13-ish is when it starts, and it goes to the late teens, early 20s. And this is a time where the main question on your son's heart is going to be, do I have what it takes? And unfortunately, I don't think most men have even gotten past, most men are still stuck in cowboy phase. They haven't answered this question for themselves of, do I have what it takes? As a cowboy, this is a time marked by extreme adventure, but also hard work. It's both adventure and hard work. And this is a time when our life will test them. But like I said, as a father, you should allow testing, allow hard things to occur. Just let them learn. Let them understand not everything's easy. Okay? One of the phrases in his book is, he says, modern day Peter Pans, is there's a lot of people out there that have taken this adventure piece and they've taken it to an extreme, and we've glorified adventure, and we look at these people that are, doing these amazing, cool adventures, and especially on Instagram and whatnot, and we think, man, that's a man. And the reality is, they're still a boy. They're a modern day Peter Pan. They love adventure to a wild extreme, but they've never balanced that out with hard work. They've never leaned into the warrior heart that God's given them, and they've never become a king with any sort of leadership or domain and dominion. So that was just to lay a foundation. And I think if you read through Fathered by God, he makes some really, he uses a lot of scripture to make his points. But David and Jesus, if you look at their lives, they definitely, when they started their ministry, it was more they were coming out of the cowboy phase and becoming warriors. Just think of David. We all know him as the warrior that took down Goliath, right? David and Goliath. However, that warrior heart, that battling heart, came from his time being a shepherd. And a shepherd was not an easy thing. It was a time when he was out with his sheep, probably alone in the wilderness, and it was his job to defend the sheep from the lions and the bears and the animals and the critters, and to make important critical decisions for the sake of the family's livelihood, being the sheep. This was no small matter. He was matured and tested in his early years. So once again, when he arrived on the scene, he wasn't this unwise, immature little boy that we like to paint him out to be. He was a battle-tested young man. Okay, so all of that's a foundation for us as we're thinking through our vision. Okay, and the goal is to launch our kids intentionally. I brought this verse up last video. Children are a heritage from the Lord, like arrows in the hands of a warrior, are children born in one's youth. Remember, the idea is, as the warrior, as the archer, you are providing tension to the bow. You're launching the arrows off towards a specific target. The vision you're laying out for your kids is that target. Okay? You're thinking through this with intention. You don't just pick up a bow and arrow and just launch it which way you think. That'd be silly. You pick an idea often, or a target off in the distance, and you launch it with intention. Okay? So here are the 5 questions that I gave you to help form vision for your kids. And these basically just came right out of the book, The Intentional Father by Jon Tyson, which is a fantastic book. Here are the 5. What do you want your son or daughter to know about God, about themselves, and about life? Who do you want your son to be? What practical skills do you want to teach them? What formational experiences do you want them to have? And what fun challenges do you want to set in front of them? If you take time to sit there and genuinely answer those 5 questions, that will give you the framework you need to have a very intentional summer. I believe if you take this seriously, you will see a lot of productive fruit from this. So But this can be overwhelming of like, man, I got to create like this big long answer for each one. No, I want you to bullet point this, because the simpler this is, this doesn't need to be complicated. The simpler this is, the more likely you'll actually do it, but also it'll make a great impact on your kids. So the idea for my son, my 6-year-old, is I want him to know, what do I want them to know about God? You don't have to answer each part of this. I'm going to focus on, I want them to know about God, that God is with us and God fights for us. So we think of Psalm 23, God walks through the valley with us. He doesn't always take us out of the valley, but he's always with us. And he's not this God that's just present, but when life gets hard, he's just absent. No, he's a God that fights for us. We look all through the scriptures, God is fighting for his people. This is a battle, and God is not willing to get in the fight and fight for us, okay? And once again, I'm leaning into that boyhood mentality that they have, where they love to battle and they love to fight, and that warrior spirit in them. I'm just tapping into that. God is with us, he fights for us, and we are a part of that battle. So we are going to study Ephesians 6 and the armor of God. And I'm going to have some devotionals and some things that I'm kind of writing for my kids. I'll give those to you if you'd like. Just put your email address, I guess on Instagram. This is where I need to be better. But I'll try to find a way to post those, okay? So that you can get a hold of those devotionals. The second thing is, who do you want your son or daughter to be? Once again, on a broader scale, I want you to put a lot more thought into this, of the type of son or daughter you want them to be once they go to college or once you launch them off. But this is a practical short-term vision that we're talking about right now. This summer, I want to focus on building my son's courage, endurance, and I want him to have more of a team player mindset. So character-wise, these are the things that I'm going to do. So there will be moments where I test my son's courage. Does this mean I'm being a bad dad? No, you need to know your kid, what's appropriate. The idea is to test and build them little bit by little bit. So you know what's appropriate for your son. But I want him to be a man of courage. So I'm going to speak that into him. I'm going to teach and train that for him. Endurance. I believe that we quit way too quickly nowadays. We don't have any endurance. That's extremely vital for life. And I want him to be a leader. He's a natural leader, but at times he's not a great team player. So I need him to understand that, yes, he's a good leader, and that's part of God's calling on his life, but he also is a part of a team, and he has to be a team player. Skills, these are just practical skills for him. I want him to know some tools. I want him to be able to use a screwdriver and a hammer and a compass. On the vision sheet that I have for you, there's 75 to 100 different practical skills that you could teach your kids. This is very practical too. You're teaching and training them in the ways of the Lord, but they also need to know how to do real life things. What formational experiences do you want them to have? Admittedly, I don't have this one fully baked out yet. I want more than just camping, but I want to take my son maybe to end the summer session, maybe that we'll just go on a camping trip to the local campground. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. We might just camp in the backyard and have a fire and do that would make their day, and that would be a memorable moment from the summer. It doesn't have to be complicated. Camping in your backyard could be one of their biggest memories of the summer. So don't overthink this. This last question, this is a question that I came up with. This is not, let me be clear, this is not out of the book, Intentional Father. I added this because I think this has the potential to be really cool and special. But what challenges do you want to set in front of your kids? I believe that these challenges should probably go hand in hand with the character you want your son to have or your daughter to have. So as I'm thinking through my challenges, I want to think through things that are going to build their courage and to build his endurance, etc. So this summer, we're going to focus on, I want him to bike 100 miles, run 50 miles, not at once. right? Just if you bike a mile a day over the summer, you'll easily get it. He bikes 2 or 3 miles every day. Not every day, most days. So this is not going to be hard for him to hit, but I want him to see and tangibly see, oh, I'm going a far way. We'll have something on the fridge and he'll color off every time he does a mile, and he's going to start to see, man, I'm going far. I want him to start internalizing that of, I can do this. I can go a far way. And we're developing running 5 push-ups. He can do maybe 1 right now, but this is a way for him to be around me, just developing the habit of doing exercise. And then we're going to spend a lot of time outside in nature, hiking, once again, leaning into children's love for exploration, right? I'm tapping into their desire to go on adventures and explore. So I'm just going to also tie in that endurance piece here and say, okay, let's go hiking. Let's put on a backpack. I'll put in a 2-pound weight, a 5-pound weight. It's not going to be anything heavy, but it's just this habit we're building. It's this mindset I'm starting to drip into, that he can, once again, have this endurance. He has this courage, that we are exploring and tapping into God's hardwiring for men. And I think he's going to absolutely love that. Okay, now once again, you create your own vision for your kids. This is just some silly examples of what I'm doing. This week, I want you to finalize that vision. I know a lot of you have probably thought about it, but you haven't put pen to paper. So finalize it. Sit down with your wife, or actually put the pen to paper, write it out. I don't want you, to just, I think I'm going to do this. No, we need to write it out. Chance, don't leave things up to chance. Chance is a lousy teacher and an even worse guide. So finalize that vision and then adapt it or adjust it based on the stage of manhood. This is where I had to challenge myself, and I want you to be wise, because I wanted to develop my kids to be warriors. I do. I mean, that is a phase of manhood, right? They need to have that warrior spirit, that they know when to fight, how to fight, and have the wisdom to know, should I be fighting here, or is this a battle God hasn't called me to? Whatever. But I wanted to develop that. And I was probably pushing my kids a little too hard. When the reality at the end of the day, they're boys right now. They need to know more than anything that they're special, unique, and I love them. And so, yes, I'm going to instruct them. I'm going to teach and train them. I'm going to push them a little bit, but I never want to get outside that zone where I'm exasperating them, where I'm burdening their heart, where all of a sudden they question my love for them because I'm pushing them too hard. There is a thing where you push them too hard too young. So let's make sure it's appropriate based on the stage of life they're in. And then this week, I want you to start connecting with your son. A lot of us, we get very reactive in life. We go to work, we come home, we eat dinner, we do the dishes, we watch TV. We're never really connecting with our kids' hearts. So this week, whether it's your son or your daughter, connect with their heart. Get time on their level. Go outside in the backyard and run around with them. Start connecting with their heart, because if you're going to take this step to teach and to train them, once again, the foundation is connection. It's going to feel really weird to them if all of a sudden dad's teaching and training them, but you haven't connected with their heart. So this week, if you're not already doing that, let's connect with them. Lastly, next week, that's when the training starts, right? We're training them spiritually, practically, physically, mentally, all those things. But start thinking of what you're going to practically do next week. How are you going to start doing this? If you don't have a thought, follow along with what I'm doing. Once again, I'm focusing on the armor of God. We're going to go through Ephesians 6 together. We're going to do some fun things to make it practical and tangible for the kids. But next week, I'm setting the stage for the kids by going over the 3 enemies that we have, right? The world, the flesh, and the devil, right? Kids love to fight something. Well, these are our enemies when it comes to our faith, right? The world, the flesh, and the devil. and we're just gonna, once again, at their level, teach them what that is. Do I need to go super in detail on the world and the devil and the flesh and all of a sudden bring scripture like this map? No, bring it to their level, okay? They just need to know we have enemies, give them a little bit of a tangibleness to it, and that's it. But I will be giving you specific instructions for dads, moms, and the family, right? This is a family thing. Men, I'm leading you. But if your wife wants to get involved, I'll have activities, I'll have things that she can do, once again, to bring this home. So thank you for tuning in to the video. I'm excited for what this summer has in store for us, and be full